Once, a long time ago, there was a young man who was a soldier. Now, he had gone to war, and he had fought admirably. But it was a long, hard fight, and he had lost friends in the process. He had nearly died himself. But the king had offered a great reward for all the people who had come back from the war. So, with this reward in mind, he went back home. He went to the castle, demanded his reward, and what did he get? 3 shillings, and in order to get out of the castle. This did not sit well with this soldier. The soldier went up to the king, held up his 3 shillings, saying, "This is my thank you for nearly dying for you? For fighting for you? For seeing my friends die? This is nothing. This is an insult." The palace guards had a little bit to say about that one. Now, as he was picking himself up out of the moat, he started to think that the only thing he could do was get what he wanted from the king by force, or at least by trickery. And if there's anything he learned while he was away at war, it's that if you have the right men by your side, you can accomplish anything. So the soldier went searching for these good men. One day, while out in the woods, he saw a great big man plucking trees out of the ground like blades of grass, bundling them together. So great was his strength. The soldier went up to the strong man and said, "Why don't you come with me? Together we can go far in the world." The strong man agreed, and pretty soon they came this time to a huntsman. The huntsman had his gun cocked and ready to fire. He said, "Huntsman, what is it you're shooting at?" The huntsman said, "You see, 2 miles from here, there's a fly resting on the branch of an oak tree. I'm going to shoot its left eye out." The soldier said, "Come with me. Together we can go far." Next, they came to a windmill. Now, the windmill was turning, but there was no wind blowing. What they found was a young man who was sitting back, holding shut one nostril and blowing a great breeze out of the other. The soldier went to him, made the same offer, and then they were 4. Next, they came to a man with 1 leg, who was resting near the side of the road. He had a wooden leg, but it was tied up, and he stowed it on his back and carried crutches with him. The soldier went up to him and said, "Well, this is strange. Why do you walk without your leg?" He says, "Oh, well, you see, I'm a runner. But I'm so fast that if I'm wearing my leg, I just go too fast. You gotta slow down every once in a while." Soldier said, "Come with us. I think we can go far." Next, they found a man who was wearing a cap, but he was wearing it askew, so it was covering one of his ears. And the soldier walked up and said, "Why are you wearing your hat like that? You look so foolish." The man said, "Well, afraid I have to wear it like this. If I uncover this ear, a great frost comes, everything freezes. It's really just such a bother." The soldier said, "Why don't you come with us? And together, the 6 of us can go far in the world." And so the amazing 6 were brought together. The soldier, the strong man, the hunter, the blower, the runner, and the man who could summon the frost. Now, the king had a contest going. You see, his daughter was very good at running. And he said that whoever could beat her in a foot race could marry her and have the kingdom. Whoever lost against her, though, would lose their head. Well, the soldier decides this would be a great place to start his plan. So he goes and he enters in the contest, but he enters as his proxy, his man the runner. And so the day comes for the race, and the terms are this. Each runner would take a pitcher. He'd run to a faraway well, fill it up with water, run all the way back, and whoever got there first was the winner. So the two were on their mark. They were set. Shot was fired, and off they went. Both of them at incredible speeds. The runner, with his wooden leg on, got to the well first, filled it up, started running back. He looked back, realized the princess wasn't all that close by. So he thought, you know what, why don't I take a little rest? So he arranges himself on the ground, sticks a horse's skull under his head, just so he wouldn't be too comfortable. He didn't want to lose the race completely. And then he went to sleep. Now the princess finally comes by, and she doesn't want to marry the runner, she doesn't want to marry the soldier, she doesn't want to marry any of these common people. She was a lot like her father. So she takes the pitcher and just says, well, it's his own fault, dumps the water out, and goes on her way. Now, luckily, who should be watching from atop the roof of the castle but the huntsman, with his keen eyes? So he takes his gun and says, I guess it's time for a wake-up call. Aims for the horse's skull, fires, knocks it out from under the runner's head. The runner wakes up, notices what happened, says, well, I guess I better double my speed this time. Picks up the pitcher, speeds off to the well, fills it up, races back, and gets to the finish line before the princess does. Now, this has never happened before. No one had ever been faster than the princess. So, the king decides that he's going to start making a deal. He goes to the soldier and says, listen, you don't really want to marry my daughter, do you? It's really, you're not at each other's station. It's really not a good match. Why don't I offer you a feast and someplace to stay instead for the night, and we'll call it even? And the soldier, who really didn't want to marry the princess, said, well, that sounds about fair. Now, the king kept an iron room for just such an occasion. Walls were iron, walls were iron, floor was iron, ceiling was iron, it was all iron. But it was made up to look like a regular room with a big feasting table in the middle. So, he led them to this room. It was decked out with a wonderful feast. All the things you could want to eat. And they went in and they started to eat. Then the king left and locked the door behind him. Then he ran down to the cook and ordered him to build a raging fire underneath the iron room. Now, the cook did as he was told. And as the six are eating, they start to notice it's getting really warm, and they think maybe they've had a little too much wine, maybe they've eaten a little too much. And no, it's getting really warm. And they notice that the door is completely locked. And they feel the doors and the walls. They notice it's like hot metal. And there's no way out. Well, the man who could summon the frost said, well, I know the solution for this. Takes his cap, straightens it out. Suddenly a cold breeze starts blowing through the room, freezing the food to the plates, making everything get colder. Now the king comes by, feels the door, feels it's not hot. And he runs down, scolds the cook. The cook says, I built your fire, and points to it. It's raging. So, The king runs back up, unlocks the door, opens it up. The whole room is covered in ice. So she says, "Oh, good, you came. It was getting a little chilly in there." And the king says, "Oh, well, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry it got so cold." And the soldier says, "Well, you should be sorry that it got so hot first." The king had been found out. I said, "Look, why don't I make it up to you? Why don't I give you gold? As much gold as one man can carry. How does that sound?" Soldier says, "That sounds pretty good. You know what? I'll come back for it in 2 weeks." So the soldier and his men go off. And what they do is they get every tailor in the kingdom. And they get them to sew together a sack. A gigantic sack. Then they hand it to the strong man after the 2 weeks have passed. And he goes to the king's castle. Now, the strong man lays out his giant sack, says, "All right, 1 sack of gold, please." The king's thinking, "There's no way this man can carry all this." So they start loading gold into the sack by the barrel, and then by the cart. Sometimes he wouldn't even take the oxen off the carts. He just stuffed them all in the sack. Eventually, there was no gold left in the entire castle. And the strong man looked in the sack and said, "Well, it's not quite full, but I suppose it'll have to do." He ties up the end, heaves it onto his shoulder, gets up, and starts walking away with it. The king is incensed, mad beyond all reason. He calls together all of his 2 regiments of soldiers. He says, "Go get that gold back. Go get that soldier. Just kill them all." So, by the time that the strong man has brought the gold back, they see the 2 regiments of soldiers coming down on them. Well, the blower with the gale-force lungs, he doesn't like the looks of this, so he says, "Well, I suppose I can take care of this." So he goes, covers his one nostril, breathes it in, and blows the 2 regiments away. They dance in the air. Finally, they settle back down to the ground. He walks up to one of them and says, "Go tell the king that anyone comes after us again, that they'll have the same fate. I may just blow you straight across the ocean next time." So that soldier, that captain of the regiment actually, ran off back to the palace and told the king what he had said. The king just said, never mind, leave them alone. We can't mess with them anymore. There's magic in them." The 6, however, had their gold, and they split it up amongst themselves. Give or take a few thousand for the occasional war widow, or war orphan, or just anyone who needed it. And they lived the rest of their days in quiet contentment, happily ever after. Oh, that's Grimm's Fairy Tales, by the way. How 6 men got on in the world.